Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Matt. Hello.
Hello, good to meet you, Karen, and good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. It's a really big honour.
Yeah, look, we've only known each other a week, but here we are doing a podcast.
I know, right? Thank you for agreeing to it.
Yeah.
So Matt, what's your kind of 1 minute introduction about what you do?
Yes, so I'm a technology project manager by day, and I'm also passionate about the blockchain and the Web3 space, so I spend a lot of time there. I'd see blockchain as a wonderful extension of my passion for software. So blockchain is a distributed open source database, and I just love it. It opens up all sorts of possibilities. So yeah, that's what I do. Originally though, I'm a creative. I'm actually a musician by trade. I spent a lot of time in the arts, and I actually work at the Performing Arts Centre, so I guess that makes sense, and we can talk about that a bit more.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So we really want to know how Matt became so cool. So right from the beginning. So Matt, what kind of kid were you like growing up?
I was probably, especially the first 10 years, pretty outgoing. Like, I remember when I was, I shouldn't tell this story, but when I had my 10th birthday party, I actually took on like 10 other guys. Like I thought I could beat them at cricket, and that might sound a bit boastful, but I got out really early, and it was a failure. But that said to me, it's something about my level of confidence, and I guess probably a slightly outgoing nature, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And did you have siblings growing up?
I did. I had a brother actually who I lost to cancer when I was young. So yeah, actually that was when I was 15. So that was quite a transformative time in my life. Probably impacted my whole life actually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was he an older brother?
Younger, about 2.5 years younger. Yeah. So he didn't have a very long life, and the older you get, the more you realise how short his time on Earth was. But it tends to impact how you see things and how you see people, I think too. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
No, we didn't have that.
Sorry.
No, we didn't have that down. But yeah, so like it's kind of, I feel almost as if I'm an only child in a way, because we only had those, 12 or so years together, but very fond memories, and hopefully as the song goes, we meet again.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah. And then, so what about in terms of school, the school environment? So, you were very confident. Were you academic? And you were a bit sporty.
More so. I did a bit of both, yeah. I've always loved sport. I'm actually passionate about sport, even though I'm more of a nerdy intellectual type. Like my sort of family background is more in, I guess, academia or philosophy, thinking things through, reasons for being and all that kind of stuff. So, but I love sport. It's something about the competitive nature of sport and the, I guess, the quality of the athletes that are on display. I find very inspirational. So yeah, I can talk about sport all day, but I did play sport, played cricket and tennis, and but more so I spent time in the academic land, studying and doing German and music really through high school. So
yeah. Wow. And did that make you a popular kid? Like, you're smart and you're sporty, isn't that like?
I don't know, maybe for others to judge, but I guess I had a good friendship group. I've always had a good sense of humour, and I guess I'm outgoing in at least in social settings. So
Yeah, and then tell me more about like what your favourite subjects were.
Yeah, so German and music was it. That was really what and modern history. I love modern history as well. So
why German?
German, I don't know. It's funny. I studied both in grade 8. So back in the day, at my school we did 6 months of French and we did 6 months of German, and I got like 96% for one and 98 for the other, and German was the other. So I just thought, I'll stick with that. I think I'm better at that, and it just sort of grew from there. I had a very good teacher, which helped a lot. Lady Frau Hatch, Mrs. Hatch. She
Shout
was
out
actually,
to Mrs. Hatch.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she's still going. She was absolutely awesome, and she taught me the fundamentals of the language really well. So I then we had an exchange student come to us in grade 12, a guy called Christoph, with whom I'm still friends, and his whole family, and that's like over 30 years ago. But I then went and lived with them for a year after that.
Wow, 1 year.
So yeah, basically almost a year. Yeah, when I was 18. So I literally flew out on my 18th birthday. And left my family to go overseas on my own. So it was a great experience though. That was a transformative year, big time, to be on my own over there.
Wow, and what kind of stuff did you learn about yourself while you were there?
I don't know, I guess.
Independent living.
Yeah, it was. It was a freedom, I suppose, but also being in a family environment. It was a very caring family. The host parents treat me like their own.
Oh, that's so
unfortunately,
cute.
one of them's just passed on in the last 12 months, the dad, but it was a wonderful year, and Christoph and I, and family, his siblings, like I say, I'm still in WhatsApp contact with them. You know, every birthday they have, or their kids now have. I send them WhatsApp messages and things like that. So,
oh my gosh!
yeah,
Wow, you guys
nice.
go way back.
It's been a lifelong connection. Yeah, it's been good.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
for me, but I love the language. Like I've been passionate about the language. I just enjoy. I don't know, Germans. Very philosophical, very obviously very organised, you know, diligent, hard-working people. So they're pretty intense at times, but I do find I enjoy being with Germans. And so, yeah, it's been a lifelong passion of mine. I still follow German political economy, and I, you know, literally, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I actually sit through like German Parliament. Sometimes, if there's a good debate going on, I'll actually sit there and listen to that. So that's something of interest to me, anyway.
Yeah, that's so cool. And do you find that like learning another language can almost make you feel like another person?
Yeah,
like
that's very
that
true.
German
it is.
Matt
It does.
version.
Yes, it is. And in fact, in some ways, I probably like myself more as that person than the English me. It's interesting you mentioned that. We studied at university a book called Living in Two Languages, in Zwei Sprachenleben, and that book actually went through, I think, some real life stories of anecdotes of people who did, you know, because multilingual people, you know, absolutely fascinating in terms of that. You know, being able to relate, because the language is obviously the key to a culture and to unlocking what's going on, you know, behind the scenes. So once you start to understand those nuances, through the language and the change of tone and all those sort of things, you can start to unlock all sorts of keys about, you know, who you're actually with.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And so what is English Matt like and what is German Matt like? I know it's a bit hard to articulate.
Yeah, it's been a
while.
while.
Are you like the more like, I don't know, dominant, more confident in German?
Yeah, in a way, it was wonderful being on my own because I was sort of a young guy. I had long curly hair at the time, and I was just able to be whoever I wanted to be really over there. And you know, I went to school. I actually went to school and did voluntarily sat exams. They all thought I was bonkers. Like I'd sit through maths exams just to have the experience of, you know, doing it in another language. And so yeah, overall probably just, I don't know how to describe it really. Definitely a bit different, but just able to be the me that I wanted to put out there, I suppose.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, and I did forget, we are supposed to give a shout out.
Oh yes, so we are today, we've gone down rabbit holes there but we are at Entain. We're at the Innovate Labs here in Bowen Hills. So shout out to Gav and Liz and Aroha and the team from Entain. Innovate is a community here for meetups, founders and passionate humans who are in the tech and the startup space. So shout out to them. We're at Bowen Hills. They've got like some little co-working desks. They've also got their own offices here and a meetup space. And we're in a VR, AR sort of lab at the moment where they carry out tests and other things.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Very beautiful space, and yeah, just love the environment.
Yeah, very grateful to Entain for that.
Yeah, so thank you, Entain. So back to the podcast. So talking more about career, so it was very kind of like an easy decision for you to go into music and then go into German, right? Because of your love for it.
People said to me, follow your passion, you know, that usual thing. So that's what I did. That's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about your parents? Did they have like any idea of who they wanted Matt to be?
They weren't pushy in that regard. Like my mother once said she always thought I should be a CEO. She thought I was the CEO, and I'm sorry, Mum, I haven't quite reached those heights. But I've sort of, I guess, to sum up, I can't help leading. Like I've always been a bit of a leader type. Like even going back to those primary school days, you know, I was president of the student council and, you know, did a few of those sort of things. And I just couldn't help. And I still can't help volunteering for things. We might talk a bit more about that later in terms of the community space. But I have always enjoyed that. But in terms of, what the parents thought, no, they just let me explore it. And in the end, as we'll see as we go through, I sort of ended up doing a job that's unrelated to my training anyway. So,
yeah, that is exciting. So yeah, tell me more about the university experience. So studied German, created a kind of like new outlet for Matt. And then what about the music side of things? So at this point, when someone does like German and music, do they have like, what's in their mind? Do they want to become a musician? Do they want to become a linguist?
Yeah,
or?
linguist would have been exciting. In latter years, I've rethought I would have liked to have gone into international trade or international business, you know, to use some of those skills, cross-border, you know, could have studied international law, anything like that really would have lent itself, you know, would have lent itself to, you know, a career having had that training. But I kind of went through uni not really knowing, I suppose, what I was going to do. You just go through those years, and if you don't have a set profession in mind, you can sort of, as an art student, you can tend to you know, move around in your focus a little bit. But in the end, I ended up falling into IT later on. But yeah, there was no one focus. Probably academia would have made the most sense, and I did go on to do honours, so I could have gone the academic route, but the need to earn money and have a day job sort of took over. So,
too realistic.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then tell me more about music. So,
music.
Were you playing music as like a young kid, and did you like love it? Did you love it as much as you loved German language?
Almost. Like I loved the music appreciation classes in high school, and I studied classical piano, and I taught myself. Had lessons on double bass as well, so I played in jazz bands and things back in the day, and actually pop bands on electric bass as well back when I was 18, 20, 21. But the love for music has just always been there. So my family has musicians on both sides, going back, like conductors or choir masters and mistresses, and
could have been the next conductor.
Maybe,
Matt
maybe.
Hooper.
Yeah. Conductor from Brisbane. But love it. Music sort of just comes naturally, and I think that ties in with the German talk. The language talk is that it is you have an extra auditory sense. I think as a musician, you have well developed hearing for and a lot of it's about copying. So you're copying other sounds, and then that's, you know, along with the grammar and the fundaments of the language, that's how one way you can learn it. So yeah, it's always been a tie in there.
Yeah, they actually
that
work
auditory
well
sense.
together. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so a lot of people, you know, they know what they like, and then they go to uni, and then they study it, and like, you know, the passion is very, very tested. So what was kind of that experience? Was it that like glamorous, you know, wow, I'm following my passion, or did it kind of make it become like a chore, right?
A little bit, yeah. Like listening to music, I got to the point where, because I did theory of music as well, like the actual, you know, studying scores and orchestral works, you know, from top to bottom. You know, you got a score with 20 or 30 instruments, and I got to the point where after several years of that, I didn't want to go to a concert, a classical concert, or any concert, because you just so overanalyze things that you almost lose the enjoyment. I found anyway. You know, we had a lecturer there who was a professor guy who could like literally hear a score. He would read a score from top to bottom, and he would hear it in his head. He was an absolute freak. But I was probably never at that level. But that intensity actually did take away the joy for a while. So I sort of had to pull back, and I just try to let the experience and the music actually wash over me when I go to a concert. I don't try to pull it apart, what's actually going on. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then so you did Amos in piano.
Yeah, so piano. Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, I was never, never going to be the next, Yehudi, or Menowin's a violin, but Anton Rubin or Artur Rubin or whoever. But I was okay. Yeah,
good
that's
musical
pretty good.
sense. That's pretty amazing.
Associate diploma. Yeah, it was all right. So.
Yeah. And did you teach other people music, with that Amos?
My wife's a teacher. I've never had the patience. Like I listen to her. She does, everyone from like 4 and 5 year olds up to, quite advanced, especially violin students.
Yeah.
And I don't know how she has the patience really, because I sort of, I did do a little bit of teaching of the younger kids, but I always found myself a bit too impatient, to be honest. I don't know. I just found it hard. It's like, why can't you understand that? I can play that scale. Why can't you? It's very hard to actually.
It's very hard to kind of articulate why they can't, because it's kind of like intangible.
Yes.
To sort of describe why it's a little bit off, or the rhythm is not quite.
I'm sure there are techniques, to help them get over the line. Piano, my wife always thinks or says is easier than, say, a stringed instrument, because with the strings and some wind instruments too, and brass, you've actually got to form and make the sound, whereas piano is essentially almost a percussion instrument where you're plonking an existing tone that is there, so it's not easy. for kids to actually get that intonation right, along with everything else, knowing the notes and what you're actually doing. But yeah, so classically trained, and but have an appreciation for the other genres like jazz, especially, but a wide range. Yeah, love music across a wide range of genres.
Yeah, that's cool. So there was never the dream to be a conductor at any point in time?
Not a conductor.
I love how you just study it because you not really thinking about what kind of job does this magically form and fit into the box of.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Just because you love it and
enjoyed
you like
it. Yeah, I guess there was an aspiration there to do something with it at one stage, but it wasn't where I ended up career-wise anyway. But the passion's still there, and I still do go to especially classical concerts. So,
Do you still play piano nowadays?
Yeah, I play a little bit. I do a bit of doodling. You know, I might hear a melody or something. And my middle daughter is studying music. She's just started studying music, and so for my wife and I, it's really pleasing that she's following that path because it's what we did. So we pray that it works out for her. But she's got a really good ear, so she's doing double bass. She majors on double bass, but she's actually studying composition of music. So she's literally, she's in a way going down a path that we did 30 years ago. So it's interesting to watch.
Yeah, and so good she has you guys as parents.
Well, it is absolutely there. So and that was good through high school. Actually, with the German as well, it was really nice. My older daughter studied a bit of German too. It was really nice to be able to actually give them some advice or actually teach them through some of the grammar points that might have been missed at school and all that, because I had that knowledge. So those two areas were really. It's really nice to see coming out in your children as well. Yeah,
they're really kind of like their parents.
It is in a way. But then the others are finding their own way and they do their own thing too. So yeah, 3 daughters.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you said that you can sort of like listen to a little bit and play it by ear. Has that always been kind of something innate in you, or because I personally did piano for 8 or so years, and I sure cannot play by ear. So even I know you're not talking about being able to fully note for note, but for me to I can't really actually hear
Interesting.
it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We're all different.
Yeah, I don't know. Has that been something that you were able to do when you first started?
Not exactly. I think it's probably something that grew, especially if it can be anything. Like last night, my wife and daughter were doing a puzzle and they had La Buena Vista Social Club on, and there's some really interesting harmonies and melodies going on in some of that South American, Latin American music. And I found myself wanting to actually work out the main melody. So I sat down and, did a bit of a doodle and worked it out. But look, I'm not brilliant. I'm not no way brilliant, but it is interesting. I think what I was trying to say was the ability to do that in a way comes with probably a lot of time, but other people can probably do it naturally. A lot of time spent studying harmony and how it all fits together, but I don't know. It's just
enjoy your gift, Matt. Some people are very jealous.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, cool. And then can we talk about careers? So what was your kind of first job ever? Did you start working at high school, at uni?
Yeah. So very first job, I used to mow lawns when I was about 12, 13. Yeah, I used to mow lawns.
That's the sign of a budding young entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, if we had the skills these days, now there are teenagers on TikTok with lawn mowing businesses, and they actually, you've just got with TikTok and these other channels we've got now, you just got so much opportunity to promote yourself and your business. But I would have loved to have had TikTok to promote my lawn mowing business. I used to earn about $7 an hour.
Wow, you rich kid.
Yeah. and then one year I got a pay rise to $7.50 an hour, so that was brilliant. So but I enjoyed that. Mowed lawns. I delivered newspapers for a while. This is going back to the 1980s. This is going back a long way. So delivered newspapers, and then through uni I then fell into, I worked for a real estate telemarketing business for a time. That was an interesting stint. They sold negative gearing, and we were lead generators. It wasn't my bag really at all. Cold calling people around dinner time. I was one of those for a short period, pushing negative gearing through this property investment firm. But that was not my real bag. So
that's awesome. I want to go back to the lawn mowing.
The lawn mowing.
So, when you were 12, Wow, that's amazing. And it's kind of like a very, very like kind of small business in and of itself. So like, was it something that your family were like, oh, Matt, make some money? Or were you like, hey, you know,
No, my mother probably pushed me a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was handy because it was a lovely old lady who was an ex-school teacher who was part of the church we were in, and she'd lost both her legs to cancer. She was in a
Oh,
wheelchair.
no.
Miss Cook, she's lovely. Actually, I've got a photo. We should have brought it.
Yeah.
She's lovely. She would sit in the wheelchair, but she could actually get down and she would do the some of the weeding and things herself. She was a lovely lady, very actually very instructive, even though I'd only spent an hour and a half with her every week. But she had quite an influence on me in my teens. Lovely lady, but she used what we call the proverbial we. So she'd say, oh, and I do other odd jobs around the house. She'd say, oh, we need to change the light bulb up there. So we would be me, and I'd be up there changing the light bulb for her or doing things. So I learned, a few things about just doing jobs around the house through the time with her, and yeah, she's since passed on, but it was
some
an
fun
instructive
memories.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then so what was your first job straight out of uni after doing German and music?
Yeah,
Dun, dun, dun.
well, I fell into really both my major career moves, such as they've been. My wife was actually going to go for a job at QPAC, the Performing Arts Centre here in Brisbane, and she knew someone who worked in front of house, taking tickets on the doors and ushering people in and all that stuff. And the friend of my wife said, oh, they've got an opening at the moment, they're doing an intake. Why doesn't my wife apply? And my wife thought about it. She said, oh, we're actually not really interested in that. Why don't you have a go? So I put in and applied to be an usher, basically. And within a week, I had the job, and January of 1996, that's when I started at QPAC.
Yeah.
So that's been, my whole career then has been spent at QPAC, but in different roles. So I literally fell into that.
Yeah, wow. And at the time, were you like applying for different roles? Because this one, it's like not the most intuitive one when you like look at the degree.
No, that's right. I don't remember. I did do a small business at home. I was selling it wasn't Tupperware, but it was one of those businesses like a catalogue-based product selling business, where you drop like Avon, but for other household products.
Yeah.
And we did do that for a few years. We were, uni students, and we got married while we were at uni, and we were kind of, putting together, we did this since we were 19, but we were cobbling together an income, and that was one of the things we did. But yeah, this was a little bit more solid. So I picked up some hours working on the doors. I saw Phantom of the Opera 46 times.
Wow, 46 times! Oh my gosh.
In 1996, 1996. That was with Rob Guest. Was the Phantom at the time, Australian entertainer. So I did that for 3 years. But to answer your question, I guess it was just the need to earn dollars. And really later on, I worked out that being in the arts, even though I wasn't actually performing what I was trained in, it kind of made sense because I was still around the arts, So the arts business and the arts, I guess, experience and what we actually do at QPAC is put on live, produce live experiences for people. Makes a lot of sense to me, even though it's not directly what I'm doing. So
It's in the right industry.
yeah, that's right, exactly. It's in the ballpark.
Yeah, that's cool. And after being an usher, what kind of different roles did you do throughout QPAC?
So I then again sort of fell into ticket sales. So I know the business from the ground up.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
I worked on the counter for 3 years in the call centre. So QPAC has its own contact centre and front counter sales. I did that for 3 years, and I really enjoyed the systems. I was very adept at we had a keystroke-based, a command line-based system back in the day. It wasn't even like Windows-based. It was a green screen system essentially, and very quickly I sort of got to a stage where I've always been inquisitive about software and how it works. So I got to a stage where I was sort of overtaking the knowledge levels of those around me, and that led to falling into sort of middle management role in the early 2000s, where I was the conduit between IT and ticketing.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole IT journey started, literally with that role, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So everything was pretty much learnt on the job.
That is absolutely right. Yeah, everything I know, I've either self-taught, because I've always, since discovering PCs around the early 90s, I've always enjoyed like Windows computing. So I'm not a major math science guy, but I've always enjoyed, well, how does that RAM slot into there? Or, we used to rebuild white boxes back in the day, and always been a bit intuitive about how certainly Windows-based computing, IBM compatibles, works, and so that whole stack has always made a lot of sense to me. And there we go. I found myself in the start of what became an IT career.
Yeah, wow. And what is your current role at QPAC?
Yeah, so I'm a project manager by trade, by title. I've been doing that for a long time. I do also all our major technology procurements and contracting, negotiations, all those kind of things as well. So it's quite a varied role. The title doesn't really do it justice, but I basically do everything from ideation through to requirements gathering, tendering, contracting, and then delivering the thing. So we do that for both hardware and software projects. Like one of the interesting ones at the moment is we've got the digital screens on the side of the QPAC building. I don't know if you know those, the giant screens that are made up of multiple panels that face the city side, the river side of the building. We've got that out to tender, so that's quite a major one. So that's an interesting crossover between the hardware and the software side of things when we're putting some advertising up on the screens. So yeah, many and varied things, and that's been what's kept me going, I think, is the variety of that role.
Yeah.
A lot of different projects, a lot of different line of business apps that I've worked on, upgraded, moved to cloud, all those sort of things. So yeah, a lot of variety in there.
Do you ever wish you did like an IT degree?
Well, I guess it would have helped in a way, but I'm very grateful to the guys and the team and gals I've had around me. I have learned a lot from those that I've been with, and you learn, I guess, in life and in business just by doing and by being around smart people. That's what I enjoy, is I like hoovering up knowledge and information from those around me.
Yeah.
Wonderful resource with the internet these days. You can Google literally just about anything that anybody else has ever put up there. So you can find a lot of answers out yourself if you're keen to look for them. So yeah, but yeah, it might have helped. It would have helped. But then again, yeah, IT degree would have been useful, but once you get into work environment, you'll find there's such variety. Unless you're doing a very, set sort of number of tasks that require, say, 2 or 3 programming languages only, you're going to need more than probably what you've covered in the years at uni anyway. But that just comes with time. So.
Yeah, that's cool. And then let's talk about blockchain. When did that sort of come into your world?
Yeah, it's funny. I've always, being in tech, I've been aware of the whole Bitcoin movement and crypto kitties and all of that stuff going back a few years, and I never really delved into it very much. I used to think it was a bit, I don't know, all a bit out there. I really didn't know much about it. But then in the last couple of years, I started to find out more. And as I probably said earlier, it's the power of the distributed open source database, which is what distributed ledger technology essentially is. Once I started to realise that, it just opens up some different possibilities from our normal sort of enterprise controlled or centralised way of doing things. So yeah, I've just delved more and more into that, and there are so many different, I guess, facets or what do I want to say, like verticals almost in that blockchain space as well. It's quite interesting to me. Crypto is just one part of it, but to me, I'm really interested in the enterprise application of blockchain tech and what it can do. It's kind of a case of it doesn't solve every problem, but the things that it does do, I believe it does quite well. So. Yeah.
That's cool. And so a lot of my audience probably were right where you were at the very beginning, didn't know much about blockchain, didn't know much about Web2, Web3, etc. So do you mind giving a quick kind of layman's introduction?
So we talk, a lot of people probably haven't even heard of Web3, and in a way it's a bit aspirational, I think, but those that are in Web3 feel like it's a chance, an opportunity to sort of change the way the internet works. So the 3 phases basically are: Web 1 is regarded as the read-only web. The internet essentially started as document store, so you had reading of stored document repositories essentially. Web 2 is regarded generally in broad terms as the read-write web, so it meant that users could write back. It's a little bit contentious, but these are the broad generalizations that are given. Read-write web, and then Web 3 is meant to be the read-write own web, where rather than everything about either your online identity or your data or your, the information that you're putting up there and storing being controlled by big corporations. It's meant to be the end user and individuals taking back control. That's probably the best way I could describe what I think Web3 is aspirationally. And so what that means in the blockchain sense is blockchain by default is distributed with, especially in public blockchain, your consensus and approvals for transactions, so for events that are happening on the network, they have to be approved by multiple entities, multiple nodes on the network for them to happen. So that almost by its very nature is less centralized than what we would call a traditional Web2 structure, where a Facebook controls a large chunk of who I am, or a Google has a large chunk of who I am, or whoever else it is, Microsoft, you go on and on. So yeah, I hope that makes sense, but that's about the best way I could sum it up. But it is aspirational, and there's a lot to play out, because I don't think that the big co's are going to let it just slide off. And then we bring in the whole finance and decentralized finance side. That's a whole other world as well. That's part of the world we inhabit. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then a big turning point in your sort of blockchain interest was when you started volunteering. So you want to talk to us more about that?
Yeah, I fell into that as well. It tends to keep happening in my life, it seems. But about a year or so ago, I just found myself spending more time on Twitter. I was sort of a bit more into the NFT space, because we were still coming out of, we're in what we call the bear market at the moment. We were still probably at the end of the last bull run, probably late 2021 into 2022. NFT projects still had a bit of gloss and glam about them, and so I'm always late to investing cycles, it seems, but I was kind of starting to put a little bit of money into projects, and I just started following more people on Twitter and was building up this particular Twitter handle that I had in the crypto and NFT space. And somehow I came across the guys at OzDeFi. So OzDeFi, for those who don't know, is a community organisation that basically is about advocating for Web3 and not centralised technologies. So, and they're actually it's founded by two guys plus another one who run a business called Not Centralised, who are behind that, and they basically do a lot of advocacy work, a lot of community building, a lot of meetups, and that's where I first met them. And before too long, I was a community moderator in the Discord, and then I put my hand up to start running the local meetups up here, because they were quite established in Sydney and also had a Melbourne presence building. I put my hand up to run the Brisbane ones, and I'd run communities before. I'd been the chair of the Microsoft Dynamics group up here in Brisbane for a while, a few years earlier, and again I found myself playing that leader role. I just sort of wanted to build something and grow that group up here. So I guess I fell into it. I sort of tapped Mark Montfort on the shoulder and said, hey, I literally met him at a meetup up at Mycelium in the CBD there on Margaret Street, and said to Mark, hey, I'm Matt. I'd like to run your meetup, sort of thing. So he knew a little bit about who I was, but that's basically how that started. So yeah, that was sort of middle of last year when that really kicked off.
Yeah, that's awesome. And tell me more about what does a community manager do, and what makes a kind of good community manager? I
guess to some degree you've got to be a people person.
Which you are.
You'd suck if you didn't like people. But yeah, I think it is. How do I describe it? From my point of view, I just enjoy connecting people. I enjoy connecting smart people with each other, because again, I'm learning more from them and from you than I am from anything else I've done. So when I'm at a networking event, I do take steps to actually get around the room as best I can, and I also love just introducing someone there's a hook there. So there's just something about that person that might relate to that person. Love to bring them together, and that just grows then. And I think people gravitate to that. People like to see that, your level of enthusiasm, and I think people do appreciate that. So yeah, good community manager, needs to be a bit of a people person, enjoys bringing people together around maybe some shared interests, and got to be a bit energetic.
Yeah, which you are.
I am in this space. I am.
Yeah, so I want to talk more about how you're so good at networking, right? You told me you were a trained introvert at heart. So how did you kind of become super social, super good at connecting?
Yeah, it's kind of there are two sides to me. Maybe we all have it. I don't know. Maybe we all have a bit of a, I look at it in terms of like I do get energized by being around smart, energetic people, but I also get, I guess I probably regather my strength by being on my own. I actually enjoy my own time, which maybe again a lot of us do, but
kind of like an ambivert kind of situation.
it is, yeah. I call it an outgoing introvert.
Yeah.
That's what I am. So yeah, that's just how I am. But I guess I'm passionate about lighting those sparks, those connection sparks between people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any advice to the introverts out there thinking, hey Matt, I can't be like you?
Well, look, you know, we talk a lot in Web3 about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So we all tend to think that we can't do it, but you know, just if you can, just get out there, get out to meetups. So I do find meetups can be really good. And now that we're sort of in this weird sort of post-COVID era where we trust, you know, breathing on each other again, it's time to get out and you know, just get along. Like I met some awesome people at this meetup we had here last week. It was with all things blockchain. There's some people there who came all the way from the Gold Coast, never knew and didn't know anybody here, and you know, they were just sat there maybe by themselves in the corner. Well, I'll make a point of going up to that person and saying, "Oh, hello, I noticed you're on your own. What are you interested in?" And then you go from there. But yeah, maybe an outgoing introvert.
Yeah, that sounds good. And talking about imposter syndrome, tell me about your side hustle, your hobby, Fresch Enterprises.
Yeah, so I run a side hustle where I do a bit of consulting. It's mainly aimed at that Web3 space because I'd like to break in there and do some more work, because I find that you tend to do well at what you're passionate about, and you tend to enjoy that. So it's a side hustle where I just do some consulting. I review white papers or review business plans or even help with delivery as well, so I can do that end-to-end delivery. A lot of what we know from our Web 2, as we call it, world, a lot of those principles in terms of product development and project management relate very much to Web 3 as well. It's just that we're doing it in a slightly different context over here. You know, we might be releasing an NFT, doing an NFT project, but the deliverables and a lot of the core around delivering that NFT are the same as we had back in Web 2 world, really. So it's just a translation effort into some slightly different tech in Web 3, so-called. In the blockchain space, but I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, but I'm kind of curious about like how did it kind of like start from the idea into actually putting it into play? And it's pretty hard to like, how were the early days when you had this idea? Were you like very nervous to share it with people?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess it came out of, as I've gotten older, I've always had a desire to be more entrepreneurial, but I've always found that I've had the day job, and it's enough. So I really admire people that can effectively really do a side hustle as well as the day job. It really is incredible. So I guess it's an effort to just get a bit more entrepreneurial, you know, set up my sole trader and put up a website, and doing those things, if you're going to do it properly, makes you think about, well, what is my target market? You start to think about those questions, like who would this appeal to them? You know, is this a business that's actually even needed? You know, so you've got to have a bit of a think about that, and I'm still working through what that looks like, but I'm happy to pick up some work and keep going. And the networking events, again, if you're in that entrepreneurial space where you want to grow a business, the networking events I think are key. You can do a lot with your socials online and your presence, but I think getting out, for me, I have the best interactions actually one-on-one. Like I find a lot of interactions one-on-one with people, which is where I get to know you and you get to know me. That's what I really enjoy. And the one-to-ones come from meeting people at meetups. That's how it works for me.
Yeah, that's cool. And then also when you have your like own thing, it's very hard to find a name. So like, how many names did you have to go through to get to Fresch Enterprises?
I did a bit of thinking, and in some ways the name is still problematic because it's Fresch, so it's the deliberately misspelt fresh. You know, there are lots of freshes out there in terms of Woolworths, the fresh food people, and all those sort of things. So it's not brilliant, but interestingly, that spelling is not taken as a business name in the Australian marketplace,
so cool.
which I found really interesting. Yeah. I think there is a US business called Fresh something. Like I was really surprised. For me, it's also a little bit. If you know your German roots, it actually looks a little bit Germanic in terms of the name. So that was part of the play, just for me as a personal tweak. Probably not the best name, but it's working for now. I've got a little bit of brand identity, which has like a green set of blocks on the blockchain that sit in my logo. I did a little bit of work on that. If I was going to go bigger, I'd probably do a bit more work on that brand identity and that whole brand end piece, but then, there's going to be costs involved in that as well. So unless you're, clever enough with Canva, or you can do some of that yourself. But I'm not really visually that way inclined, so I'd probably pay someone else. But all that is to say, did do a bit of thinking about it. It's just, for me, it's putting Fresh is me. Fresh is, I think, a bit relatable once you get to know me. It's like keeping it fresh, keeping it real. And for now it works. So who knows? We'll come back in 12 months maybe and see where it's up to.
Yeah, that's cool. And I was wondering, before Fresh, what were the other names? What could it have been called?
I can't think, to be honest. No, I can't think. I did have a few. Did a lot of playing around with my surname, but I found that the surname, there are a lot of, Hooper this and Hooper that. It's
sounds
quite
like a basketball thing.
Yeah. I did actually. I did play with that. Actually, another one I was working on was called Hoops Talent. I literally have. I think I almost went to register that domain, Hoops Talent. But that's Hoops is actually used for a fairly big basketball company in the US. So I thought I'd have some sort of brand and domain confusion over that. But yeah, I did play with that. Hoops something.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're nearly at the end of the podcast, some of those ending kind of questions. So the deep one. What do you think the meaning of life is in your opinion?
I should have prepared for this. Look, I think, I guess the meaning of life, I don't know, maybe we'll find out next, in the afterlife, but it is that what I would say is I think every interaction is important. Like for me, every conversation or even a simple interaction like in a public place, on a bus or at a coffee shop, there's an opportunity to be kind, be helpful, but it also, each little interaction and moment of being kind and having a little conversation, it has a ripple effect, in my opinion. Like it actually, you can impact that person, even if it's someone I meet in the kitchen at work. You can impact that person by not only asking how their day is, but going one step further and just having a little bit of a chat, and then that might actually improve their afternoon, having a little interaction in the kitchen. So I think a lot about that ripple effect in terms of making other people's day better, and hopefully that flows on, that they might be a little bit uplifted to help someone else, and so it goes. That's how I think. I don't know if that's the meaning of life, but it certainly helps.
Yeah, meaning of life, connection. Eh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And then do you have any advice to young people about finding passion, and how does one do it? And is it a shame to not use your uni degree, a lot of lost people out there? Yeah,
pursue, I mean, I guess our boomer parents would tell us to pursue your passions, and maybe we say that now. Gen X, I'm firmly Gen X, but look, I see my three daughters, they're in their teens and early 20s, and they're working it out. We're all still working. I'm 50 and I'm still working it out. Yeah. So I guess now, I think in the 2020s, with property being so unattainable, hard to get, maybe, and with travel having opened up, maybe I see there's a bit of a different way of looking at life, our life priorities. Maybe it's not about having $1 million house. Maybe it's more about going and using the benefits of living in Bali for 3 months, and getting some of their free, whatever their free startup incentives are up there, or just, I see this generation having a lot of opportunity to travel and to explore things, and that hopefully, and with the ability to set up businesses online, I mean, there's no excuse for anyone of any age really not to have either a Shopify presence or some sort of e-commerce play, or whatever your side hustle is, I suppose. You can do your Amazon, FBA, you're fulfilled by Amazon. There are all sorts of things you can do with that e-commerce space that can help you to fund your existence, is what I'm trying to say. So it doesn't have to be about having a day job, as it certainly was for my parents' generation, and to some degree for me personally, that's been my experience. But yeah, I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Opportunity everywhere.
Yeah, I think so. You just have to seize it, yeah.
Yeah. And do you have any advice you'd like to give to your younger self?
Yeah, I thought about this one on the way in. I thought, what would I say? Look, I did have some good answers prepared. I certainly think, don't give up believing in yourself, I suppose, and try and develop passive income sources as early as you can. That's what I would say. Passive income, because the time invested is key. When I think of the hours spent in a day job, you'd want to be getting something out of that, because it's all you've got, really.
Yeah, 1/3 of your life, man.
Yeah. So you want to be enjoying it.
Yeah, that's cool. And then so Matt, if you won the lottery tomorrow, fingers crossed, and finances were not a concern, what would you do differently about your life?
Oh, yeah, I should have prepared for this one too. I guess, I don't know, I guess, you know, it would be nice not to have to worry about money, you know, I guess it would open up other possibilities. You know, I look at, for me, rich sporting players, you know, people like the Djokovic's or Federers, they do give back. They've all got a tennis academy, or even Tiger Woods, you know, got abilities to have a foundation. It'd be nice to be able to, in a position to actually set up something. Not that saying you've got to be a millionaire or billionaire to do that, but it would be nice to be in a position to actually, you know, create your own blockchain academy, you know, or it might be something to give back, I suppose, is one thing that comes to mind. If you had that much that you didn't know what to do with it, it'd be nice to be able to plough it into something that was maybe educational or would, you know, help lift some people up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the final question is, what is an ideal day in life for you? It can be work-related, it can be non-work related. What time do you wake up and what activities do you fill it with?
We're getting into the private stuff. I'm not really a morning person. Maybe to my, you know, maybe as a liberal arts person, that's quite normal. But yeah, not really. I love the nighttime. I'm quite productive around 9, 10 p.m. That's how I am. So yeah, normal day would ideally start at, you know, 9 or 10, and then work through till 6 or 7 or whatever it takes. But yeah, I do. One of the routines I have is a daily walk. Absolutely go out at lunchtime every day and make sure that I get out. Where I work, I'm lucky to be at South Bank, so I traverse up and down that South Bank through the South Bank
That's where you'll catch Matt.
Yeah, you will. If you're out there between sort of 1:30, 2:30, you'll see me pretty much every day. With that. And I do a lot of strategizing, a lot of planning during that time, so it's not sort of wasted time. Not that, you know, it's okay to have an empty head as well. Clear your head, but also do a lot of strategizing and planning, either for the projects that I'm on, or maybe getting ready, thinking of speakers for the next meetup or whatever it is. But it's a very valuable time for me just to get out or listen to a finance podcast, or maybe listen to this podcast.
Woohoo! Yeah, sounds good. So we're at the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being on the pod. It's great listening to your story.
It's been a pleasure, Karen. I hope it's been useful to someone somewhere.
It has.
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.